We have with us the Public Safety Minister Nina Krieger. I'm sure she must have seen the news, and she is disturbed as a BC resident, and as all of you are concerned about things going out of hand very quickly. So the government measures are not seem to be working. At least that is the perception. I don't know the legal side of things, but at least the perception is that no matter what the government says or does, these extortionists, these criminals are going to go on doing what they have been doing for so long now. Is there any other trick up the sleeve of the government? We have the Public Safety Minister with us. Let's welcome her. Good afternoon, Minister Krieger. Thank you so much for making time.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me on.
I was hoping to speak to you about the new Stop Extortion website that your government has come out with, but there has been another shooting this morning. And the Surrey Mayor has given a very strong reaction because there is an exclusive report out in Global News that says that when the government was trying to deport 14 suspects allegedly involved with BC extortion cases, they have all claimed refugee status. So what options does your government have, Minister, in this sort of a scenario?
The cooperation with all levels of government and with levels of law enforcement has been really integral to BC's approach to fighting extortion. And I think it's important for listeners to know that the removals that were announced some weeks ago of 5 individuals from BC by Canada Border Service agencies, those were indeed people that were removed. And so when the reports of these 14 individuals emerged today, I share the frustration I'm sure most British Columbians feel when people accused of violent crimes are appearing to use the refugee system to delay accountability. And BC has been very clear from the beginning that anyone involved in violence or organized crime should not be able to remain in Canada if they are not here legally. And so the BC Extortion Task Force has been working directly with Canada Border Service agencies to identify, investigate, and remove those who are inadmissible. And we've had results already and many more under investigations. And where now there's reports of individuals that have claimed refugee status, it's now up to the Federal Immigration and Refugee Board to make determinations. But I have raised this issue, concerns about this possibility, directly with the Federal Minister of Public Safety during a bilateral meeting earlier this fall, and really urged the need for faster decisions and strong tools to prevent the abuse of the refugee system. And so I am continuing to urge Ottawa to ensure that Immigration and Refugee Board is adequately resourced to expedite the hearings where there are credible links to organized crime and violence. And so I'm writing to the Federal Minister of Immigration to really underscore these concerns. And BC, we will keep doing everything we can through the provincial task force, provincial intelligence sharing, to really make sure that violent offenders are held accountable and the British Columbians are protected from intimidation and violence.
Minister, the Surrey Mayor, some time ago, she made a request for additional personnel for Surrey Police Service. She needs funding support from your government. And in fact, in this year's federal budget, some more police personnel have been promised. I had Minister Randeep Sarai on my show some time ago, and he said specifically that up to 1,500. I think I don't want anybody to quote me on this, but I think about 1,500 RCMP personnel are going to be added. So, how many of them are coming to BC? That's my first question. And secondly, what happens to the Surrey Mayor's request for additional personnel? How are you going to fund it? Are you going to do anything about it?
Yeah, so that federal announcement pertains to 1,000 federal RCMP officers that will be deployed across Canada, and BC is advocating very hard for our fair share of that coverage. There's also a promise of 1,000 Canada Border Service agency officers, and we are also advocating to ensure BC gets what we need. In terms of the mayor's requests for additional officers, we have surged resources through the RCMP of Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit and other units in a way that's strategic and intelligence-led. So we are constantly increasing, refining the resource of the BC Extortion Task Force as these investigations continue. And so the BC Extortion Task Force is in touch with all of the polices of jurisdiction that are in impacted communities and really ensuring that there's adequate investigative resources, analysts, and also visible police presences as well.
Minister, also tell us about this new Stop Extortion website. What kind of a resource is this, and how can British Columbians make use of it? If you could just tell us a bit about it.
Sure. Yeah. And this really stems from, the engagement that my ministry and other officials have been doing with community members who are frightened, who have been who have received a threat or have been impacted by violence. And people have really been looking for a one-stop information hub for victim supports and services, for information about the work of the BC Extortion Task Force. So listeners can visit stopextortion.ca, and it really brings together trusted, easy to understand information about extortion and where people can turn to for help, what they should do if they're being targeted, and it's available in English and in Punjabi.
Minister, before I let you go, I'd like to ask you, because there's also an issue of perception across the border, and there's a feeling that is growing among many British Columbians, at least a section of them I keep hearing from on various radio shows. They say that, look, the United States is so effective when it comes to policing. Nobody dares do things like these over there. Why can't Canada do the same? Now, I understand we have more humanitarian laws, and this refugee system is also part of it. But now that many of these antisocial elements are trying to game the system, do you think that there needs to be an overhaul of the system? And is British Columbia, your government, going to play a role in at least making recommendations to the federal government that some of these loopholes be closed completely?
So when it comes to the potential gaps that these people are navigating to seek refugee status, absolutely, BC is advocating to the federal government to make systemic change so that we can ensure that people that are committing crimes are investigated thoroughly and removed as soon as possible. And I think it's really important for community members to know that this wave of extortion that we're seeing in BC is sadly not unique to BC. It's happening in other provinces in Canada. But in BC, we are really leading the charge in terms of a very coordinated response between municipal, provincial, and federal law enforcement and intelligence sharing. And we are going to continue to work in a steadfast, focused, very coordinated way to ensure that we can get the results that people are looking for and that I am looking for as Solicitor General, which are arrests, charges, imprisonments, and removals as necessary. And so we are going to keep doing the work to ensure that those who are perpetrating these crimes are held to account and that our communities are safe.
Minister Krieger, always a delight to speak with you. Thank you so much for making time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Anytime, and take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.